Joined in the studio, I should say, by International Affairs Editor Angela Diffley. Angela, good to have you with us. Zelensky is clear that this ceasefire proposal from Putin has nothing to do with long-term peace, ultimately.
Yes, he says it's cynical and that it's really about providing protection for Putin's parade on May the 9th. That is when the Russians commemorate the end of the Second World War. They call it the war against fascism, the great patriotic war against fascism. That is when it is celebrated. Putin does not want any embarrassment, and therefore this suggestion of a ceasefire. It was the same last year. Zelensky has made the counter offer of a ceasefire starting at midnight on Tuesday, so that's tonight, and an open-ended ceasefire. And he's really underlining here, as he said many, many times, look, if you really introduce a ceasefire, then that's the end of the war to Moscow. You started it, you end it, that's the end of it. We have no interest in carrying on if you end hostilities. And that is behind his saying that if you want to, we will have a ceasefire. We can start tonight and you join in, and that'll be that, pretty much. So we can expect nothing very much from this. It isn't about peace, it's about gestures. It does, however, indicate, and Zelensky has pointed this out, perhaps that Putin is a little rattled by, we were hearing there in that short piece about Kyiv increasingly using these drones, which can penetrate very deeply into Russia. This is the third night in a row that it has sent long-range drones to Moscow. Central Moscow is fairly well protected by its surface-to-air defense missiles. But just the other night, a big apartment block, a major apartment block in a high-end area was hit. There were no casualties. But perhaps it suggests that Putin is starting to feel the impact of these hits on Moscow directly. The ceremony is very much pared down compared to in some years in the past. No really big military hardware on display.
And there is some concern in the meantime, Angela, that, in Europe, as this drags on, Putin might try, if you will, a direct challenge to NATO.
Yeah, there is more and more talk about this, the idea that as it's a bit of a stalemate and neither side, or certainly Putin, is ready for negotiations, that he might try another tactic completely. And we've seen Donald Trump removing those 5,000 soldiers from Germany. He has also said, Trump, that the missiles sent, the long-range missiles sent by Joe Biden to Germany, they too are to be moved. And there is some suggestion that if the midterms go badly for Donald Trump, and he therefore decides to double down on his lack of support for NATO, which is often a popular move amongst his MAGA base and some others, then Putin really might see a window of opportunity. Europe is not really fully ready to stand up for itself without the United States. But it wouldn't be a major incursion into a NATO country, much more likely to be something very ambiguous, where NATO members then begin to disagree amongst themselves about whether any such move, it might be something, for example, the idea is being suggested of some attack on a small island or a drone attack in the Baltic, where then NATO members begin to disagree amongst themselves. He would be then sowing division. They would disagree about whether that really meets the threshold for NATO, for the Mutual Defence Pact, that Article 5, where each NATO member has to come to the aid of all of the others in the event of an attack. And so it would just create division and would erode, he would hope, support further for NATO, for Ukraine within NATO. That is something that some people think he might do. On the other hand, does Russia have the bandwidth? It might be another way of having some sort of leverage for him as well, if he has another theatre of military activity going on that he could then use as leverage. But there are many NATO members who feel that's extremely alarmist.
And just looking at this in a broader context, Angela, how has the Iran war impacted the Ukraine war?
Yeah, it has somewhat. I mean, firstly, Russia has benefited in terms of income from oil. It has got a significant injection of cash from oil sales. And it's also benefited really from the fact that, the world's eyes are very much concentrated on Iran. There is less of a focus on what's going on in Ukraine. That is useful. That said, Volodymyr Zelensky has also been able to exact some useful usefulness out of this. He was very quick to go to the Gulf states and say, you know, we can offer our technology and our expertise in how to use drone warfare. And in return for that, he has asked for their diplomatic support and some good deals on energy. And those ties are very likely to deepen with those Gulf states and Ukraine, however this all pans out in Iran and Ukraine. They won't want to too much incur the wrath of Russia because many of them are in OPEC or OPEC plus with Russia, and so they won't want to incur the wrath of Russia too much. But it is very likely that those Gulf states will be interested in maintaining some sorts of accords with Ukraine afterwards. That is good from Ukraine's point of view.